strong view on the crude oil that we were expecting, given the global demand destruction, a lower crude oil price. Also incremental from the policy side, it can only be positive. I mean, the kind of, the way whole subsidy thing has panned out over the last couple of quarters or couple of years, incremental it can only be positive, and market is probably pricing in all those negatives, the challenges that these companies are going through. And we thought that in terms of valuation, particularly the company that we own, can't talk too much about it, but we think there are lots of other positives that are not getting built in.
Let's talk about SBI Emerging Business. It's a high risk, high return fund. My question to you is, how sustainable are returns over cycles for a fund like Emerging Business?
Yeah, it depends on your research resources. This is, as you rightly mentioned, it's a high conviction ideas, very concentrated portfolio. The number of stocks that we have in this portfolio are around 25. Top 10 stocks could be anywhere between 50 to 60% of the portfolio. So some of the larger holdings have anywhere between 5 to 10%. So it's a high conviction. It does not have any market cap bias, but of course, because we are looking at more absolute return and probably less in terms of risk, then obviously it has more mid and small caps. So you get higher liquidity risk as well. So the idea is to get some of those companies where you think can do exceedingly well over a 3-year time period, and you are willing to take the liquidity risk of owning those stocks. You are willing to take that concentration risk of owning some of the stocks.
Even the last 6 months have not been tough in a downturn as well, generating returns?
In January and February, of course, when we had a momentum where some of the poor quality stocks were doing exceedingly well, the fund did underperform, but over the again it has caught up quite well. In the last 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, it has done exceedingly well. The focus has been on generating absolute returns by identifying companies that can deliver exceptionally higher return over a 3-year period.
FMCG, and you've made this point earlier that while there might be some stocks which are expensive, and some of the holdings would be in ITC, there is also focus on finding value and high growth stocks in the market within the sector. So some of your holdings include Agrotech Foods, or even for that matter, Goodrich Group. What has been the thinking behind picking those stories within the consumer space?
It's a whole evolving consumption story of India, that we have this J-curve where the demand can exponentially increase. Some of these companies, the kind of products that they have got, I mean, some of these are like multinationals. I mean, the name that you talked about, Agrotech, the stock has done quite well, or some of the other stocks that we've got in portfolio. And that's why that fund delivered an absolute positive return last year when markets, and particularly mid-caps, got completely rogered. And it's more a consumption story. Not that we decided that we want to buy consumer, they have this much, holdings in an FMCG, and that's why we bought. It's a completely bottom up that we like the product, we like the brand franchise, we like the management, we like the whole growth prospects, we like those categories, and we thought that these companies are in a position to really capture a large part of that whole discretionary consumption.
The SBI Magnum Contra Fund, what has been the approach towards this fund? Given that there is perception in a market like this to be contrarian.
So as the name suggests, you have to be a contrarian, which could be, a theme or probably a sector or a stock which is completely out of favor, and you buy that. But it's a large fund with a large number of investors, and then we understand the risk that if you try to be too contrarian, that sometimes it may or may not pay off. And we try to run it a good part of the portfolio as a diversified equity fund. Not necessarily that you have to buy a stock which has to be out of favor. You don't want to get into a value trap completely, because markets may or may not probably feel in the same manner, may not respond in the same manner.
What about SBI Magnum Global Fund? Again, very diversified, a balanced exposure towards sectors. What's your philosophy there?
Yeah, so Global is a quality mid-cap fund. It's a RRR, I would say, flagship mid-cap fund. When we look at a stock, we look at a quality theme. So the quality, the way we define it, apart from the management quality, or let's say corporate governance, or let's say the business, 3 or 4 things, as I just mentioned about our mid-cap strategy: a right to win, which is a franchise, which is a high market share, which is a technological edge, which is some kind of a strong franchise. Second is high return on capital. which has been demonstrated over the years, and we think that that is sustainable. We also look at growth. Growth is very important. You don't want to get trapped into something which is a very good franchise, a good high return on equity, but there is no growth, because India is a growth market. And last but not the least is the valuation, whether all these things are coming at the right kind of valuation.
SBI Tax Gain Fund, what can investors expect out of this fund, especially in a down market?
Yeah, so it's been in existence for a very long time, last almost 17-18 years, and it's been a very consistent return it has provided. It's relatively run on a conservative basis. This is one of the largest funds in India with an assets of over 4,000 crores. Investors who are putting money with a 3-year perspective, comparing it with, let's say, the other savings instrument, to our belief, are expecting probably a return which could be higher than most of the other savings instruments which are eligible for that kind of tax gain. So we run it as a diversified equity fund with a bias towards large cap. Almost 75 to 80% of the portfolio would be large cap, and there would be bottom-up stock picks within the mid and small caps to the extent of around 20%. We don't take large cash calls here. The portfolio remains fully invested. There is a bias towards high quality. So some of these are the parameters with which we construct tax gain fund.
Right. When I was looking at your product portfolio, I see a lot of equity funds at SBI Mutual Fund. For a lot of investors, and I'm again playing devil's advocate over here, it could be a bit confusing on what they should really look at when it comes to an investment decision. Is there a plan on either merging some of the schemes or phasing out some of the schemes to offer a bit more clarity to investors?
So we've got a very unique or very distinct positioning for each of the fund, and we believe in maintaining the sanctity of these templates very, very strictly. There could be 1 or 2 products where we have been thinking of probably we can merge with some of the other funds, or looking at various options depending on the regulatory environment, depending on the regulatory response, and also some of the other factors. But apart from that, every single fund has got a very, very, I would say, distinct positioning, which is absolutely clear in terms of its overall risk-return strategy.
So is this clarity and distinction working for investors of SBI Mutual Fund? Virendra Kumar of Value Research answers that and more in just a bit. Stay with us.
Colgate 360 Surround, designed to be the most advanced toothbrush in the world. His mission is to clean more than just teeth. His Surround clean bristles, wrap around tongue and cheek cleaner, cleans parts of the mouth other toothbrushes can miss.
Germs, beware!
Germs, here I come.
Colgate 360 Surround cleans more than just teeth. India's #1 toothbrush brand, recommended by dentists.
The cheetah-inspired XUV 500. XUV 500. Bookings now open all India.
Welcome back. We are discussing the equity schemes of SBI Mutual Fund, and joining me on the show right now is Virendra Kumar of Value Research with his views on some of these schemes. Virendra, it's very good to have you on the show. Let me begin by asking you about SBI Magnum Equity. It's a large cap fund. What is your view here?
Magnum Equity is a large cap fund, and off late it has done very well. But over time it has changed its color. And that is what shows in its performance. It has been pretty inconsistent over a long period of time. But when we look at past 10-year return at 22% annualized return on a 10-year basis, despite changing colors, I think that is quite commendable. I would say that if this fund remains a large cap fund, it is looking as an impressive fund. But in its long history, this fund has changed track to be in various categories over time.
Next is SBI Emerging Business. It's a high-risk, high-return fund. What should investors watch out for in this fund?
Investors should look at this fund as exactly what it is. It's a very risky fund, and it's very good till the going is good. And so at an investor's level, the only way to protect from the risk of this fund is to have a small exposure to this. If you have 1 lakh rupee invested into equity through mutual fund, this fund should not generally be more than 15%. And investors should also think in terms of living through a full market cycle, because this is a kind of fund which is a blockbuster when it does well, and it is the biggest disaster because some of the bets not going well as planned, because it is designed to be assuming risk, it goes bust big time. So beware of the risk and manage the risk at your portfolio level.
Also, Dhirendra, what's your view on contra funds, especially in a weak market like the one we are in right now?
No, contra funds in India has not been able to make a name for themselves, because and more so this Magnum Contra, it was a contra fund in its very early years, and after that it has been a very ordinary growth fund. It was an outstanding fund till 2007, and then it lost it. Since the decline of 2008, this fund has never been able to show the resilience it showed before, the spark that it showed before, and right now there are a large number of disappointed investors. I don't think it has got its mojo back. I don't think it is back, it has been able to recover the lost ground. So I would say contra funds, no, there are 7 contra funds, and I don't think none of them have been able to build a strong case for themselves, simply because contrarian as a strategy is very difficult to run in an open-end fund where investors expect consistent performance. Ideally, there should be a closed-end structure where the fund manager is allowed to take contrarian bets, which takes time to fructify, which is very difficult to do in an open-end fund. And Magnum Contra in particular, which was the most popular equity fund till 2007, has been very disappointing fund over the past 5 years, and it hasn't got its chemistry back.
The other fund is SBI Magnum Global Fund. What is your view here?
I would say that Magnum Global is evolving as a very nice mid-cap fund, and I think as and when the market recovers, this fund will make its name. I would say that if one has to compare between Magnum Emerging Business and Magnum Global is likely to be a little less risky variant of the Magnum Emerging Business, because it's not assuming the kind of risk that Magnum Emerging Business does, and Magnum Global is evolving. But one has to wait for the market to turn around for results to be visible.
The next fund, Dhirendra, is SBI Tax Gains Fund. What is your view here, and how should investors be approaching tax saving schemes in this market?
Tax saving funds, investors should ideally assume greater risk because they compromise on the liquidity because of the lock-in period of 3 years anyway. Magnum Tax Gain is among the largest tax saving fund. It was a very impressive fund, once again like Magnum Contra, till 2007, and then it has not been able to recover from the blows it got in 2008, and it is showing some signs of recovery, some signs of getting its chemistry back in recent months, but it is early days. I think it has been a very disappointing fund, more so a very popular fund proving to be disappointment on a relative basis in the tax saving fund.
Well, thanks Dhirendra for joining us and giving us your perspective on these funds. With that, we come to the end of this edition of Meet Your Fund Manager. Do send us your feedback and suggestions. We'll appreciate it. Thanks very much for watching.
The Samsung Galaxy S3 comes packed to the brim with features that have bowled people over. We caught up with a few of the users, and here's what they had to say.
It is smart and simple. Lets me share data very easily with my friends. I watch movies and communicate with my friends very fast.
Starting July 1st, your TV viewing experience will change forever. See sharper picture, hear clearer sound, watch more channels. The Cable Amendment Act 2011 has made digitization compulsory for Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai from July 1st, 2012 to switch to a set-top box enabled digital connection. Call your cable operator or DTH service provider today.
Samsung Galaxy S3, designed for humans. Volume up.
Clothes change.
Nice car.
You got me doing crazy things. Everybody's talking about how you got me hanging on a string.
Doors unlock.
Happy legs in the stylish New Xylo.